So we're talking about Main Street.
Okay, we're rolling.
Okay. Okay. All right. Good evening. Welcome to Progressive Soup. My name is David Stevenson. Emily Volpintesta and I are co-hosts. And with us today we have, I don't know, our fourth or fifth or sixth visit from our good friend Al Robinson, who's talked about many things relative to the media, his side of the media, as opposed to the more traditional media. But today we're going to talk a little bit about something a little closer to home. Main Street, Danbury. Al keeps track of Main Street. He watches what's going on there, and he's going to fill us in on what's happening down on Main Street, and we'll ask him a couple of questions as we go. Al, good to have you.
Nice to be here. Perfect.
So what's going on down on Main Street?
Well, a couple of weeks ago, and this business has been going for a while. I was, walking up and down Main Street, going to the pizza place that's by the library, and
was that Nico's?
I noticed that there was a series of buildings that were just abandoned. And I'm just like, that's kind of strange. That used to be a pretty well-known business. So I said, let me take a picture of this and put it up on the social media and see what responses I get. So I posted the picture online, and I got a lot of feedback from people who are saying, yeah, what's going on with Main Street? It's just looking worse and worse every day. And this is just a continuation of a story I've been talking about for a number of years.
Yeah.
And basically, I think it's the biggest failure of the Boughton administration is the neglect of Main Street. Mark Boughton came into office quite a long time ago, probably about 14 years ago now.
Yeah.
If you think of other areas in the greater Danbury area, such as Bethel or Ridgefield, or let's go a little further out and say New Milford.
Yep.
Think about what those main streets looked like back in 2001. Compare it right now to 2015. In each one of those municipalities, there's vast differences of those main streets. There's a lot more activity happening. Businesses are booming on those in those areas for the most part. And revitalization has gone underway in those areas. New Milford looks wonderful. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful area. The green, and it's a great improvement than what it was in 2001.
Yeah, the movie theater.
The movie theater. And same thing with Bethel. For the most part, it's a great improvement from 2001 to 2015. Look at Main Street in Danbury, the 7th largest city in the state of Connecticut, and it looks awful. It looks terrible. Businesses closing up at a alarming rate. The place that I was describing that I put up online was a well-known clothing store. If you had a wedding or a prom to go to, you would go to this place, and it was there forever. It's gone. If you look on the second floor of businesses on Main Street or buildings on Main Street, they're all abandoned. For the most part, there's
a lot of them are apartments upstairs, like the
some are
like
apartments.
The Martha.
Some. Well, the Martha is one, but there's a lot of other business buildings that are not. The building that houses the City Center Danbury. If you look upstairs from there, completely empty.
Well, one time there were a lot of Brazilians. Weren't they a thriving community, having a lot of clothing stores and restaurants?
Yeah, well, one of the things you want to do, if you want, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many people, if you want a vibrant Main Street, the way you have a vibrant Main Street is to have retail and a reason for people to go up and down the street. And the major reason to go up and down the street is to shop.
Exactly.
Windows to look in,
Windows to look into. So yes, in the mid-2000s, or the early 2000s, when we had a huge influx of immigrants from Ecuador and Brazil, in areas such as that, there were an uptick of businesses booming on Main Street as well as White Street and other areas in downtown Danbury. What happened was, again, under the great wisdom of Mayor Boughton and his anti-immigration policy and his attitude towards the immigrant community, culminating with the 2006 illegal action that happened over at Kennedy Park, as well as the ICE access, and just a great, huge insurgence of anti-immigrants in this area that did a lot of nasty things towards the immigrant community, which was, for the most part, given the blessing of the current administration at City Hall.
Interesting thing about Mayor Boughton, I actually ran into him a few months ago here at the studio. He was doing a show with someone else, and And I know that ICE had sort of disappeared, and I didn't know exactly why, and I hadn't kept up on that. So I asked him, I said, could you come on? And he always says, yeah, I'll come on. Just let me know when. Could you come on the show and talk about ICE? And by the way, what happened with ICE? Why are they no longer with us? And he basically said that the Obama administration shut them down.
Yes, the Obama administration shut down the ICE. But we have
ICE? Sorry.
Immigration and Customs Enforcement. They're the people who are usually responsible for enforcing immigration law.
Oh, okay.
That department is no longer there, but there's another department that came on the scene that's even worse than ICE.
Okay.
But that's getting a little away from the main focus of it, because the anti-immigrant attitude had a lot to do with people uprooting and leaving Danbury.
No, it's true. Going back to Brazil, maybe?
Going back to other areas in Connecticut. There's more friendlier areas that's more welcoming towards immigrants. And they just say, hey, look, if we don't like you don't like us here in Danbury, we'll take ourselves and our money and leave.
Yeah.
And that had an impact on Main Street.
Right.
But the grand scheme of things, in terms of revitalizing an area, shouldn't focus just on one part of our community. Revitalizing Danbury, revitalizing downtown, has to do with everybody coming together for the common good.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't mean for instance, another example is the mayor. He enacted this piece of legislation. Actually, let me go back a little bit.
Okay.
In South Norwalk, there's a place called Washington. There's a place called Washington Street.
Yep.
Beautiful,
I know it well. Yep.
Vibrant street. Back in the 1990s, there was a big brouhaha happening between Danbury and Norwalk. Who had the better strip? And Danbury, we had Ive Street, and South Norwalk, which is called Sona, we had Washington Street.
Right. Yeah.
And a lot of business, entertainment, arts and entertainment's on those two streets.
Great little art galleries and restaurants.
Great stuff. And Danbury had Casino Junction. Now they have major acts happening down there in that area. What happened here in Danbury is that, now, granted, you always have underage activity. We always have riffraff that's happening. That's to be expected in these areas. The mayor put this crazy piece of legislation in there, and that basically said that any new restaurant or business opening on I Street had to have these crazy requirements in order to open. I think it was a certain percentage had to be towards food, and a small percentage had to be towards alcohol. Basically, effectively stopping all businesses opening up on Ive Street. And instead of opening on Ive Street, which is our downtown area, easy accessible, brings people downtown, these businesses just went to other areas, such as Mill Plain Road, which is why you have all these newest nightlife in Mill Plain
Molly
Road.
Darcy's, Vespa,
those businesses. And
I always wondered why.
That's what's a major factor why. And again, what happens in the end is that Main Street was neglected. Downtown was neglected. I Street fell apart very quickly. If you look on I Street, certain buildings, within the last, 6-7 years, there's businesses come and go in the same building, constantly. And it had a big impact on the downgrade of our area. Again, one of the reasons why you want to come to Danbury, arts and entertainment, retail, eat, shop, and those things were taken away by the Boughton administration, which contributed to the decline of Main Street overall. Now, the mayor, in his wisdom, has said certain times that he has these revitalization projects, these projects, these grand scheme ideas that bring people back down to Danbury. One was the Crosby Street apartments, which is the big giant green monster.
We talked about that last time.
Good looking building,
great looking building, and he said that young adults will be in that area. Young adults will contribute towards disposable income. They'll bring in businesses and retail and all that stuff. Many years later, what has happened? You just got to use your own eyes and go down there and see for yourself. Nothing's changed. The only thing that's changed is you have two little businesses across the street from there. But of course, the businesses across the street is within a building that's owned by the guy who owns the big giant green monster. So you're not really bringing in anything.
One of the things with the building there was that it was supposed to be very limited as far as the number of college students.
Exactly, I was going to say that. WestCon.
Yeah, there was supposed to be limited in terms of numbers of college students that were being leased to.
Well, actually,
and people were kind of getting around that.
Well, actually, what happened was the people who proposed this building, BRT, came in and they said one thing: this is going to be used for one purpose. And then after they got the 7-year sweet deal tax break with the free sewer hookups, they changed everything. They changed it from what it was supposed to be to basically a college dormitory.
Yeah.
In which they're making a lot more. They made a lot more money than they would have if they just had it towards the original purpose. Because you can make a lot more money put a bunch of kids into a one-bedroom place.
Exactly.
Versus having one adult there. So,
and a lot of folks from a real estate perspective, I know that a lot of landlords won't rent to college kids.
Absolutely not.
Because they get a little bit rowdy at times, I guess.
Well, we've all been in college.
Yes, we have.
We've all been in college, but
another thing too is that as a college student, you would think you would want to bring nightlife to the area because kids come to college in Danbury and there's nothing to do. I mean,
that's the huge problem. When you have an administration if you have to rely upon kids who are in college to kick up your economy, you have a huge problem because college kids deal with bad pizza, ramen noodles, and penny beer. Okay,
and NyQuil.
That has nothing. That does nothing to help out our economy whatsoever. And shame on us if we have to rely upon kids who are between the ages of 18 to 22 to bring back the city of Danbury, the seventh largest city in the state of Connecticut. That's definitely a shame.
Right.
And it didn't work. It didn't work. The bill has been there for a very long time. And again, I just say, use common sense.
Right.
Don't listen to what the mayor says because he spends constantly. He's very dishonest.
Right.
Use your own common sense, especially if you lived here since 2001.
Right.
Walk up and down Main Street and you tell me, does it look any better now than it did when Mark Boughton came into office? Right. It's a very simple question. It has a very simple answer. And the answer is no.
Well, you touched on the idea about people moving out of Danbury, which was very non-friendly to immigrants, and moving elsewhere. And there's another residual problem that evolved out of that is that a lot of people moved up to Waterbury, which is much more immigrant friendly.
Or New Millbrook.
And then they're coming to work in Danbury. They're coming to Kennedy Avenue to be day laborers.
Right.
And you have, instead of having them live in our city and being local, we have them up in Waterbury and coming down to Danbury every day during business hours, and the highways got more clogged because of that. It got a lot of negative effect on the highways, a lot more clogging of the highway.
Well, there is some truth to that, but I think the real point is just that we have a situation where we have a mayor who's been in office again 14 years, about, give or take.
Wow.
That's a long time. And again, I bring up other areas for a reason. How many first selectmen have been in the town of Bethel from 2001 to now?
Probably
you have Alex Hutchinson, Bob Burke, and you have Matt Knickerbocker. And did you have Novacek at one time before?
Novacek goes back to that time. So that's 4.
So you're 4.
Yeah.
And think about what Greenwood Avenue looked like in Bethel in 2001 compared to what it is now.
I guess it's a little bit better, not significantly.
I would say there's definitely more businesses down there in Greenwood Avenue. There's people who are making investments into Greenwood Avenue who believe in the town of Bethel. Molten Java is a perfect example of that.
Very good example.
Burr's Books is another good example of that. There are businesses, Bethel Bicycle Shop.
Yeah,
that's true.
All right. There is people and their businesses and retail down that street that has changed the landscape of Greenwood Avenue, has contributed to people walking up and down. I work in Bethel, and I enjoy walking up and down in Bethel, and it's a very friendly community. The main area, that is, considered the downtown area, that is. Same thing with Ridgefield, same thing with New Milford. You don't have that in Danbury, and after 14 years, you have to say to yourself, what's going on here? And the revitalization programs that we're hearing from the current administration is the same stuff we heard from the previous administration. It's just Groundhog Day, over and over again. And for the seventh largest city in the state of Connecticut to be going through this, it's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. Go to the 8th largest city and see how nice that Main Street is. The 8th largest one, I think, is New Britain. Take a walk there, and New Britain is a place that had great businesses that went away, such as Stanley. It's just one of the things that happened during that particular time. Same thing happened with Waterbury and those type of jobs left. Just because the Danbury Fair Mall came into existence, that basically turned Main Street into a ghost town. Danbury Fair Mall came in 1986. That's a long time ago. And from 2001 to 15, you have more than enough time to make some type of an effort to change the revitalization of Danbury. But instead, you put these crazy laws, which you did on I Street. You show no support to things that actually brought people down to Danbury, such as the Connecticut Film Festival, which had a good impact on people downtown.
Since you mentioned the Palace, since you alluded to the Palace Theater, what's going on with the Palace Theater? Because they've had some ups and downs since they've been back.
I liked it when it was a movie theater.
Well, the Palace Theater is an interesting situation because it's a privately owned place. So Mr. De Silva can do what he wants to do with it, and there's been a long, well-documented history between the city of Danbury and the De Silvas over the previous administration up to now, where there's been great efforts to try to find some common ground way to revitalize that area, revitalize that building, to make it look like the Palace in Waterbury. I don't know if you've ever been to the Palace Theater in Waterbury.
Never been there.
No.
Gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous, and it'll give you a basic idea of what Danbury's Palace used to look like. And one of the big things that would draw people to Danbury, as we've always said for as long as I can remember, is the revitalization of the Palace Theater. If that was revitalized, it might make a difference. It will assist. It will help things out. But that's just one part of the puzzle. Again, if you don't have retail, if you don't have people, if you don't have places where people can look at window shop, eat, go up and down the street, if they don't feel safe, that's a problem. I mean, you have these 500 unit projects that are happening over there at Kennedy Park. Now, who's going to pay? How much is those units going to go for? About $500,000?
Yeah, it's going to be pretty expensive.
All right, let's say it's $500,000. So you're going to buy $500,000 downtown Danbury, no pocket parks or anything to speak of. What is your kid going to do? Go over to Beaver Street and play? Or Elm Street and play?
About the only playgrounds that are local, I guess.
And you're going to do that for $500,000.
Right.
I don't think I'm going to move there.
Yeah, no.
That's why that project's been stalled for how many years?
And it just doesn't make any common sense. And when you have people on the city council who are more concerned about getting homeless people off the streets so they don't, so the people with the 500 units don't have to see them, versus helping out the person who is homeless. Many of them are veterans, by the way, so they don't have to be on the streets. That's the disconnect we have here. And the 500 units, we've already been down this again. It's Groundhog Day again. We've already had the Crosby Street units over there. It didn't work. No matter what they want to say, it did not work. What makes you think these 500 units, and again, these units might go for, let's say, $400,000 to $500,000. Are you going to buy a unit over there that's by Beaver Street, Elm Street, and Spring Street?
Yeah, that's a tough sell.
That's a real tough sell. So let's talk. Let's save this tape. Let's put it on YouTube. Let's look at this. Look at that area in 10 years. And see what happens.
That's where it's going. YouTube.
Put it on YouTube.
Go on YouTube. It's going on Facebook, on my Facebook account. But you can find it on YouTube, Kristin40, Kristin 40 on YouTube. And Al's been poking us for a number of years to actually get these things up on. And we've got a lot of Al's great shows amongst other great shows that we've gotten up there. Can I shift gears for just a moment to New Milford? Are you following New Milford's? Oh no, let me shift gears a little bit. Not quite to New Milford, but to Brookfield. There's a little event going on in the Republican Party in Brookfield where there's a couple of people that are Republicans and they're being basically excommunicated from the Republican Party. And I had a great conversation with my friend Kevin McCaffrey about that this morning, because he's a member of the Brookfield Republican group. And you remember a guy named Joe Lieberman, right?
Yes, I do, very much.
Well, when Joe Lieberman basically turned his back on the Democratic Party and basically became a Republican when he ran for re-election under that mythical third party, the Democratic Party, what did they do to him?
Well, several things happened.
They didn't throw him out, did they?
Well, I think he was registered. Was he registered in New Haven or in Stanford? I can't remember.
I don't know. I think it's just his mom's houses and his mom's condos in Stanford.
Wherever he was registered at, there was a bunch of people who wanted to oust him from the party, and they attempted to do so. And State Central was like, "Hey, we can't do that." No, we can't do something like that.
Which I think probably, in retrospect, I wanted to get rid of them too, but we tried to get rid of them at the ballot box, and we just weren't able to do it, unfortunately.
I think we're going down a slippery slope when we get to the point, and I didn't agree with throwing Joe Lieberman out of the party either. I'll explain why. I think we're going down. I think it's a dangerous path when we say, "Hey, look, we want to toss you out of the party because you're not a real Democrat, or you're not a real Republican." But what's the standard for that? Who sets the standard for that? So I think it's very dangerous, and I think what's really going on in Brookfield, and it's disgusting, actually, what's going on. It smells Matt Grimes all over it, and it's Matt Grimes, the same Matt Grimes who hid the fact that his candidate running for first selectman was a thief, and they never brought that out to the public prior to the election. This is just same bully tactics from the people who are really mad at these particular individuals who were taking the lead in ousting the people who now want to excommunicate them. This is all. It's just petty politics at its worst.
Let me throw this past you because the point I tried to make to my friend Kevin McCaffrey was that you want your political party to be inclusive. You want there to be voices of disagreement within your party, like the Democrats had Joe Lieberman and didn't like what he was saying, but you know what? We didn't throw him out of the party. He still went to the caucuses, the Senate caucuses, and he might have been in there spying for the Republicans, but he wasn't kicked out.
Right.
When you want to make your party inclusive, you want to have different voices, you want to even have people within your party that stand in strong disagreement to a lot of things that your party does. Instead, the Republicans of Brookfield are kind of being exclusive. They're exclusionary.
Right.
They're trying to weed out people. Your thoughts on that?
Again, it's two words, Matt Grimes. I mean, if you know Matt Grimes, this is Matt Grimes. This is classic Matt Grimes 101. And again, it's disgusting. It's wrong. It shouldn't be allowed. It should be frowned upon. They put a postponement on the whole meeting. I hope they go through with it because I hope they get embarrassed, severely embarrassed. This is a municipal election year.
I'm saying that I'm agreeing that they will definitely. What do you think? Do you think that'll be what do you think of a party when they push out somebody that doesn't agree with doesn't toe the party line?
Yeah, that doesn't seem right. I mean, who's Matt Grimes? Can you explain?
Matt Grimes is the chairman of the Brookfield RTC. And in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, he's the architect of all this nonsense. Because it's just, I know Matt, I know Paul Trippy, all those guys. This is classic Matt Grimes. This is classic Matt Grimes. And if you don't think it's Matt Grimes, then you haven't been paying attention to the politics in Greater Danbury. This is Matt Grimes. This will not be going, he's the head. This will not be happening without his blessing because he is the chairman of the Republican Town Committee in that area. And it's wrong. What they're doing is wrong, and they're going to pay a price. This is an election year. Their first selectman, I don't think he's going to be reelected because of all the dirt he has created. And I think it's going to be serious consequences to what's been happening here because, people aren't really happy about what's happening in Brookfield. They're not happy about the fact that this guy failed to disclose his past prior to the election, and you know who designed that. You know who's behind that. If you tell me that Matt Grimes did not know that his candidate was a thief, an alleged thief, then that's just ridiculous.
I think it's safe to say that he probably was aware of these kinds of things.
I've known Matt for many years. This has his name written all over it. And again, this would not be happening without his blessing. And of course, he's the person who's the judge and the executioner in this whole entire matter also.
Right.
It'd be interesting to watch what happens.
But the overall notion of kicking people out of your party, kicking people out because they disagree with the generic thought within the party. I look back to one of our great presidents, Abraham Lincoln, who actually brought people into his cabinet that disagreed with him. Right. Some of them had serious disagreements with him because he wanted that divergence of opinion. He wanted to hear other people's opinions. Or you can put it another way. You could say in the Republican Party in Brookfield, the old adage about keeping your friends close and your enemies closer. You want to keep guys that are within your party, that want to be part of your party, but disagree with a lot of the party thinking. You want to keep them close because you want to, have that ongoing conversation, so the party can go through these little skirmishes within the party rather than this all-out war which is broken out now.
Well, again, the usual suspects are involved in this. It'll get worked out eventually, and I like it because I want the public to see what's really going on.
No, you like this, because you don't like the Republicans.
No. Actually, no. That's actually not true. If you talk to a lot of Republicans in Bethel, they have a lot of respect for what I do as a writer and covering politics in that area. Yep. In Danbury, they don't like me that much, but I don't really care because I don't really like them as well. But in Brookfield, the problem here is just that you have people who are just the powers corrupt them too much. It's just they're just too juiced up. Anywhere where anybody with any common sense would say, this is just absolutely crazy. Why are you going through this? This is suicide. I would say the people who are being accused of this, stand up like martyrs and let them kick you out the party. Mm-hmm. Let them, as soon as they kick you out the party, announce that you're running for office. And hopefully on a third party line rather than flipping parties like our good friend Bob Burke did from the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, to the Bob Burke Party later on. And well, again, it's just that it's not really much about party affiliation. It's about, hey, look, this is democracy. We live in a democracy here. You shouldn't be allowed to do stuff like this. And again, this law that he's using is a very, very rare law.
Yeah, the only one that seemed to know what it was Mark Boughton. He seemed to have some kind of notion about this law. Of course, he wasn't in the legislature for a while, so he knew a little bit about it.
And it's very, very, very rarely used. And so, look, a very rarely used law means somebody was doing a lot of research trying to find some way to get somebody out. That's all that. It's all
spent a lot of energy, setting the stage to do that.
Yeah, I mean, you know me, you know what my background is, and I'm telling you, this is a Matt Grimes production. I have no problem saying that.
Well, we're on Charter now too, so maybe we can get Matt on to talk about that.
No, I can't wait. Before that, let me do a Freedom of Information request at the first selectman to get all the communication between those two, and then we'll have a discussion.
That sounds good. Okay, we're going to wind it down there because we're just about out of time. Final thoughts, Emily?
No, I was just going to say, in Brookfield, didn't they recently have an election? We were saying how Billy Michael might have influenced people from Bethel to vote. There was a young gentleman that just got voted into office in Brookfield.
Apparently Billy Michael, good friend of the show, Billy Michael, who had a sign on his front lawn. And
when he's not have a sign on his front lawn.
But Billy's not in the 107th Assembly District. That's not he's not in that district. He doesn't live in the district. But apparently he swayed enough people that know Billy
in Brookfield,
that live in Brookfield and live in northern Bethel, got juiced up and came out and voted, and that's how the young man was elected.
Hey, here's the problem, though. Where's the Bethel Democratic Town Committee? They're nowhere to be found. Just like the Dan Carter and Candace and Mulligan race, they're nowhere to be found. They're not answering. They're not making phone calls. They're not knocking on doors.
Right.
If one man can make a difference, then why can't the town committees, which sole job is to find candidates and help get them elected, why aren't they phone banking? Why aren't they knocking on doors? I mean, shame on the Bethel Democratic Town Committee.
You nailed it. All politics is local.
All politics is local.
Yeah.
And if your town committees are not out there knocking on doors, making phone calls, then shame on them.
Yeah.
And with that, this has been Progressive Soup. David Stevenson, Emily Volpintesta, co-host, and our good friend Al Robinson here to join us and talk about a lot of local stuff that you don't hear much about in the media because they're too busy focusing in on incidents like what happened recently with a young nanny burning a baby, and they'll spend the entire news show talking about that and not spending any time talking about more issues that affect more of us.